Mr. Peter Mohlala. Good day.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
How are you? I'm okay. How are you doing?
We learn as we go, hey? We
Of
learn
course, we
as
continue
we
to do
go.
so.
How are things? How's the lockdown treating you?
No, we are fine. We can't complain, man.
Yeah, no, we are good. So we are talking property today. I just couldn't think of anybody else to help us navigate this issue of property. And I think it's an opportunity, and that we'd really be missing out a lot on life if we were to miss what we can get from this. So,
I agree with you.
yeah, I'm not actively, engaged in property, but I have a keen interest in it. And I think a lot of people ought to be interested in it. So, just for those that don't know what you do when it comes to property, can you talk to us and tell us, what does Mr. Peter Mohlala do when it comes to issues around property?
Okay, sir. Let me thank you once again for the opportunity to
Pleasure.
have me in the podcast. Yeah, it's always encouraging, to be asked to come into your experience and so on.
Sure.
In the property industry, I'm working, number one, as an agent.
Okay.
In the area of Germiston, Alberton, Ekurhuleni in general, but I'm also, an investor in property.
Okay.
And I've been involved in property investing, for the past 10 years at least. So, because my first properties were bought in 2010.
Okay.
So it's almost, 10 years that I've been, doing this.
Wow.
And yeah, so I just decided in 2017 that, what, instead of just working as an property investor, let me go into the ins of it and work as an agent and see how far I can learn from him.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to suck as much information as possible to be able to share with those who would love to one day, own their own properties.
Yeah.
Those who would want to build their own investment portfolios.
Sure.
And so on. So yeah. So I guess I'm at a point where I'm still continuing to learn, but I can also continue to share with as many people as possible.
Yeah. So I think that there are really good opportunities that are in the property sector. And just again, I think not even thinking about it from a business point of view, but just from I own property, So I think for today, let's get into the first question. Considerations for first-time buyers. Well, you sell property, and what do you think people that are buying property need to consider?
Yeah. What I've noticed is that a lot of first-time buyers do not necessarily understand the cost implications of property ownership.
Yeah.
I think one of the things they look at is just, how much is the property is marketed for, but they don't realize that apart from, the actual purchase price,
Yeah,
there are other costs like, transfer costs, sometimes transfer duty. There are also bond costs. There are also things like levies and possible, maintenance costs and so on.
yeah.
So most of them, they just come in having seen a property advertised, in one of these sites, Private Property or Property 24, and then they're just thinking, let me just, go for it and let me buy it. So those are some of the things that I've just, picked up amongst the first-time buyers.
So I think really you've touched on something that's quite interesting, especially when it comes to levies and all the other stuff. You've actually gone ahead of me, but I think it is important because those are key considerations. When you buy your house, I guess it's one of those things where you are saying, I'm excited to buy. But then the question becomes, do you have a deposit, or are you just going to go 100%? I want the bank to finance what I'm doing. And what, I think also understanding, because recently I've also learned about the whole thing of JIBA, which is the Johannesburg interbank, what do they call it again? The rates, that there's a rating system that they're using. And it got me thinking that all along, we sign these contracts. You are not aware that your contract is using JIBA, and not necessarily being based on what the repo rate is per se. And that some people will be excited that there will be immediate changes on their payments. It will be reflective and all that. And with you have to wait every 3 months to act, or even a quarter, to see the changes, because when yours is Johannesburg Interbank, as they are saying, association rate, right? And you don't know,
That's true.
And it's only later on where you're thinking to yourself, shucks, I wish I could actually, what's the value? Do you think it's important to actually sit down and read the contracts and read the papers? And
my starting point is that anyone who wants to be investing in anything should at least study a little bit about that which they want to invest in.
Okay.
In our last broadcast, I said you cannot put too much of your cash or capital into something you don't understand. So that thing applies also when coming to properties.
Yeah.
So before anyone decides to want to buy a property, whether it's the house they want to stay in or a property that they want to rent out, they need to at least get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
I've already stated my observations in terms of people are thinking, what, as long as I've seen how much it is, then I'm going to buy. But there are many other issues. What I also have observed, which I think people need to think about before they even get to buying, we need to understand that where you buy the property is also very important.
Come on.
And where you buy the property is not just the question of where it is located. It's also a question of the surrounding. How is the surrounding? How is it reflect? Is it a growing surrounding, or is it going down as in dilapidated surrounding?
Okay.
That's one point. Then the second point, they need to also be thinking, where is my property located? I've seen some of the people that want to buy properties, and they don't visit the place where the property is located to actually look at the actual property. So they feel, since I've seen the pictures that the agent has sent me, or I've seen the pictures that are advertised on this website, then I can just purchase a property. No, you can't do that. You can't do that, especially in the beginning. You can't do that.
Yeah.
When you already have a team, of experts that are doing some of this work for you, it will be very easy for you to send them and let them go to, look at that for you. But in the beginning, you really need to know where is my property located, and how is the surrounding around my property. If somebody wanted to buy later on, would the person be comfortable to want to buy in an area of this nature? Because that speaks to the possibility of you selling it in the near future, in case you want to sell it and get out of the place. So that's another important consideration: the location of the place. The location of the place.
You remind
another
me.
Important,
No, carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So another important consideration, which I think some will need to also think about, it's they need to understand that each property that is put on the market for a particular figure, they have a right to negotiate for the offer they are making.
Okay.
So it's
not
like,
just
whatever
if they're saying it's 1 million, I give them 1 million.
1 million. No, it's not like that. The people that are selling are in the market like any other person. They are looking for somebody who would want to buy. And therefore, you are at the right place as a potential buyer to negotiate for how much you're going to buy this property for.
I'm
so those are some of
realizing,
the realities that people don't consider, I think, most of the time.
guys, you are allowed to ask questions. There are guys who are asking questions. They are asking us to expand on the whole thing of Jiba. And I think there is someone who actually kind of has an idea. Maybe you can expand on that. But the whole thing is that there are certain lending institutions. No? There are certain lending institutions that use Jiba as how they borrow money to the people that come to them. I can't name them because we are not advertising for them. But there are these there are these organizations that actually, yes. So somebody explained what Jiba is. Tumelo actually explained. So thank you. You'll just read through that. But it's important to understand all that stuff so that when you buy, you understand what's happening. I love what you are saying about the issue of check the surroundings, check the property itself, because there are all these things that you may not be aware of that are a problem. Issues of tenants that are living in the house. I remember we once went to go view this house and we saw the whole house except for one room. The one room door could not open, right?
And run for your life.
And this was a fixer-upper. Guys, please share this post so that more people can come and join in on the discussion. So please share with your friends so that they can join us and we can talk about property. So the one room could not be opened. So we asked the real estate agent and we're saying to him, but why can't we see what's in the room? And he says, no, it's the caretaker of the house, of the plates of the house. I'm like, no, but even if it's the caretaker, we need to see what's happening.
We need to see the room. We need to see the room.
Exactly. So that was one alarm bell. That was one alarm bell that was there to say, but if we can't see. And then the other thing is, it's not on what we wanted to talk about. As we are talking about surroundings, what do you think of fixer-upper houses? Houses that still need to be fixed. You can see that this is a case. It's a house that's a case. It's a cardinally case number if we were to talk about this house. What is your thought about buying a fixer-upper?
One of the important things that people need to understand, especially if you are buying properties for investment purposes, you need to be deciding what your strategy is going to be in the whole process.
Okay.
There are others whose strategy is about buying a house that needs certain repairing, and then they repair it and they flip it or they sell it so that they can make capital gains or profit from the sale. And then there are those that, their strategy is about cash flow, wanting to receive, a particular amount on a monthly basis going forward. Now, let's assume somebody is using the strategy number one, which is about looking at a property that looks dilapidated, but can fairly repair it and sell it, and take out the money out of it. I would say, what, maybe look at it and see if it makes sense for you, and then you can do that. But most of these dilapidated houses may require a lot of capital to fix them, to take them to the place where they were before. So what in such a case, then I would say run for your life. You don't want a property where you're going to do a lot of work, because it's possible that you can lose money in the process. You can fix it. After fixing it, you realize that whatever the asking price is going to be, you'll not be able to make your money back. So those are some of the things you need to be thinking through as you continue to invest or as you continue to buy in these kinds of places. So strategy is important. Okay. Understand how you want to run, or how do you want to do the game of property investing. Are you going to be flipping properties around, taking capital gains? Are you going to be going for cash flow, or are you going to do a combination of both?
Okay.
A little bit of this and a little bit of this, and you keep going. So whatever the strategy you decide, it should be able to work for you. But in all your transactions, you must be able to understand what you are doing. You must be able to understand what you're doing, so that you don't lose money in the process. The reason why we invest in property is so that we can make money.
True.
So if you are investing and you are losing money, then you're not necessarily an investor. You're playing with your money, basically. So I would make that a submission to say, look at what the property is, how the property is. Look at the things that may need to be fixed or repaired. If it's too much or it will require a lot of capital, maybe it's one of the properties you shouldn't even get involved into. If it's something that just need a small touch-ups here and there, and you want to flip it, maybe you can do those things, put it back to the market, take out cash, and keep moving.
I love it.
That's what the business is
so
about.
that's what they call flipping, right? Just to fix and sell.
Oh, of course, yes.
So you're reminding me of the issue of buying property that has tenants or people that are in the house. How risky is that? There are people who are in the house and either they are renting or they are squatters. Let's even put it plain and simple, squatters. Is it wise to listen to your, I know now, Opaisa, your own people. Is it wise to believe the estate agent when he says, no, these people are going to go out when you when you buy the house? Because I saw on another show, a guy is paying for a house and the people that are staying in the house are saying, on we are going nowhere. You found us here, you will leave us here. And the issue of the community again is important because the community also made it very clear to the new owner that this family is going nowhere. They've got nowhere else to go. So you bought the house and it's none of our business. But this family is staying. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
You see, this is still tying up to the question of the location.
Yeah.
It's still tying up to the question of the location, because it's very important to understand where you are buying your property. Now, let's talk about, well-to-do suburbs or, fairly organized, suburban areas and so on. You will find that most of the properties that are in the market in the area, there's already people that are staying in those particular units. So ideally, it means you are going to buy it while knowing that there are tenants inside the building.
Okay.
Now, if these tenants are basically, good tenants, which are generally professionals or working class and all those things, they will understand when they are given notice to actually vacate the property and find another property next door. They will be able to do those things. But in cases where you realize that in that area, following the law or legal processes is a difficult thing to do, then it's an alarm bell for you. You need to be thinking, is this where I want to be investing in? Or must I actually run away from investing in an area of this nature? Because evictions are generally very expensive, they are tedious, and they take long time, to finally keep people out of the unit.
Yeah.
So that's an important consideration. Having said that, we need to also understand that if you're investing in well-to-do areas, when there are tenants in the building and you just want to invest, maybe it's not even an issue because you are already one step ahead. So you buy the property, the tenants who are in there can continue to stay in that building, and then they keep paying rent going forward. So there are both advantages and disadvantages of finding tenants in a particular building. But the issue of location is important.
You've raised a
the issue of location is important. Yeah.
I think really what you've just said has really highlighted the importance of checking out everything and knowing as much as you can. I think Tumelo is adding a lot of wonderful chunks to our discussion. Talking about issues of getting repossessions and do your homework, get a repossession list prior to bidding. I think he's raising really pertinent things. Now, I want to
Yeah,
ask.
he's working from the bank. He's
Oh,
working from the
wow.
bank,
Okay.
and it's funding some of the properties that people are buying, and that some of us are basically buying. So you will
Beautiful.
have more information around it. Yeah.
So he says here that when it comes to the repossession list prior to bidding, the list is available 48 hours before the sheriff. Others, you will have a problem with evictions. So I think that is where the biggest challenge is, because I have seen people going and buying houses with tenants and it becomes hell because the bill comes back to you. They don't,
Yes.
the bill comes back to you, the rates bill, all these other things. It becomes such a problem. So yeah. And then I just wanted us to talk quickly about the issue of credit, your credit records and your credit score, and how valuable it is, in the whole thing of
Yeah.
buying property.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think of that? Because I'm realizing that you can't negotiate with the bank if your credit record is a bit messy, because you are talking about negotiating your rate, your interest rate, the interest that you'll be paying for your bond, but you can't if it's almost like you are at the mercy of the bank if your credit score is not good. If you've got issues with credit here and there. What's your take?
Yeah.
Have you seen it as a problem? Do you find that somebody that seems to have had a good record is able to negotiate even with the bank?
Yeah, your credit score and the issue of affordability is a very serious and important issue when you want to buy property.
Yeah.
Remember, the banks would feel comfortable to borrow somebody they think is worthy to be borrowed money, or can be trusted to actually pay back the money back to the bank.
Yeah.
So I've had clients that wanted to buy properties around, and they liked properties. They have signed the offer to purchase, and we've submitted to the bank, and the bank declines.
Yeah.
Why? Number one, they may talk about the question of affordability, or even bad credit score. So those things are very important, and they really determine whether the bank is going to give you 100% bond, is going to give you 90%, 85%, or whatever the case may be. So it's always important that you handle your accounts or your proper financial affairs in a better way over a period of time.
Yeah.
If you are owing, your car, you should be able to, pay the car as you should. If you're owing, your different shops, for your accounts for clothes and so on, or furniture, you should be able to make sure that you maintain your account as you are expected to. Because if you don't, these things have a tendency of catching up with you later on. The good part about credit records that sometimes may be bad is that you can still fix it. The challenge is that you will have to delay a little bit before you can actually buy the property which you wanted to actually buy, because fixing it may take at least 6 months or so, and then you can get back, and then they can start looking into your credit again, and you keep moving forward. But your credit record is very important. The credit record is very important. Now, for those that have good credit records, of course, you're right. They can always negotiate with the bank. When I was buying my first property, because I'm good at negotiating all the way. Actually,
I didn't even know you could do that.
It's my policy that I don't buy anything for the asking price.
I think, guys, whoever is watching, if there's a takeaway from this discussion, it's the issue of learning to talk for yourself and negotiate. If you have a shy personality like some of us, you must take some from Mr. Mohlala, because I am learning, that nobody's going to be out there to make deals for you. The worst that can happen is for them to say no. So I'm hearing you perfectly there.
And when coming to property, there are at least 2 or 3 points at which you can negotiate.
Okay.
The first one, you can negotiate the price, the offer that you want to make to the seller.
Okay.
You can negotiate and say, I know you are asking 700,000, but I'm going to give you 650.
Okay.
So let the seller be the one saying no. Let the seller be the one saying no.
Okay.
That's too little. I can't take it. The second point of negotiation is at a place where of the bond, the bank can come back to you and say, I'm just going to give you, previously we were giving about 10, 11 or whatever. Now that they've gone down by 2.5, maybe we're looking at about 7.5, 8, whatever. You can always say to the bank, oh no, 8 is too high for me. Let's look at the bank next door if they can be able to give me a lesser interest rate. That's the second point of negotiation. But the last point of negotiation also it's at the point of the transferring attorneys.
Okay.
There are some of the attorneys that are willing to say, you know what, we'll give you 10% on your the transfer costs.
Okay.
Or a bank that says, you know what, in registering your bond, we are willing to register your bond at this money, which is outside the what other attorneys may be basically charging. So those are the 3 points at which you can negotiate this thing. And at every point where you negotiate, you are basically saving money or making money for yourself. That's what makes the whole investment, worth it, because you are able to save as much money as possible as you go through the process. So it's very important for people to understand this thing. Everybody is in business. The bank, they are looking for clients.
Yeah.
The sellers are in the business of selling their houses. They are looking for clients. The attorneys are in the business of registering properties, looking for clients who want their properties registered.
Yeah.
So they are looking for clients. So anyway, at any point, you should be able to negotiate your way into the deal. So for me, with my first property, it was even worse, because my first property was selling for 575. It was a repossessed property.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to give you 575. Of 400,000 rand. And guess what? The agent said, no, it can't be done. That's crazy. And whatever the case may be. But guess what? I finally got the offer. They accepted the offer.
Beautiful.
So at the point when I started owning that property, I already had, an equity of about 150, 175,000 rand. Can you imagine that? So it's already putting me a step ahead.
Okay.
In terms of, how far I'm going. And the same principles that I'm applying when using investing in properties, the same principles I'm applying on a daily basis. If I'm buying a car, I can't go there and then they tell me this car it's 650,000 and I just take it for that. No, I negotiate for all the discounts all the time. And they're able to look at it and then, make adjustments where they need to make. And then keep going.
Now, I love Tumelo is going ahead of me. Are you looking at my script, Tumelo? Because now he's talking about the issue of deposit, which is where I was going next with our discussion. How important is deposits? Saving before you buy, because it's easy to just kind of go and say, I saw this house, I know the bank can give me 100%, 100% loan for this purchase. So I'm just going to go for that. And I'm not going to, make any prior arrangements or preparations for the purchase. What's your take on that? What are your thoughts?
Let's assume you are buying property for your own. You want to stay in there. My approaches are always different. When I'm buying a property for myself and when I'm buying investment property, it's usually I don't look at them the same way.
Okay.
If I'm buying a property for myself, it makes sense for me to at least put more deposit into the property. Okay. Even if the bank was willing to give me 100%, I usually make a consideration to say, you know what, let me actually put this much so that I don't have a lot of money that I need to be putting paying for the next 20 years or the next 25 years, whatever the case is. So that's very important. And by so doing, I'm reducing also the potential interest that the bank were going to have, in the near future if my bond was going to stretch for a very long time. So that one, yeah. When coming to an investment property, it's always important to look at the numbers. You need to work out how the deal is going to turn out.
Okay.
Most of the people that are investing in property understand that they need to invest for cash flow. And investing for cash flow, it means you need to make sure that the property is giving you money on a monthly basis. You need to make sure that the property is giving you money on a monthly basis.
Should
now,
you
in
expect
that
that immediately, or that can like wait for 1 or 2 years? How long should the property start paying you? What are your thoughts about that? Because there are some people that,
depending on the nature of the deal, but generally, most properties may not necessarily give you a positive return from the beginning. You may find that it will take a year or two, for you to finally start getting returns on the property that you are buying. But then I still wanted to talk a little bit about that deposit part. Now, let's say you work out your numbers. And you realize that if I was to take 100% of the bond from the bank, you are more likely to have to pay, let's say, 500 or 1,000 rand more. And then if you work this number backward and you realize that if I was to put down 10% of the purchase price, then I'm likely to break even, or on a monthly basis, I will not have to pay, too much. Then you can put down a deposit that is able to make sure that you don't have to pay too much into the property. So that's the way that you are moving forward. So in other words, you have ability to gear the property or leverage the property 100%, but you decide to put 10% or 15% to make sure that on a monthly basis, you don't have to put extra cash into the property. That way you are sure that in year 2, for example, or 6 months down the line when you have to be renegotiating the lease, then you are going to generate positive income going forward. So that's why I'm saying to you, when you are working with an investment property, the approach is usually different from when you are just doing it for a home that is, is going to be your own home where you're going to stay in it, and so on and so on.
I hear you.
And now you spoke about affordability issue, that somebody knows what the bank knows that it can afford 100% loan. Now, I say to people when coming to affordability, you don't just buy property for the asking price because you can afford or because the bank can give you the money.
Yes.
You must ask yourself this question: am I willing to pay this amount even if I know I can afford it?
Okay.
Am I willing to pay this amount? So if the seller is asking for 700,000, for example, or 1 million, for example, and the bank is saying to you, no, you actually qualify for 1.2. The question still remains, are you willing to pay 1 million for this property?
Okay.
This property. So it's not just a question of you affording. Is it what you want to pay?
Okay.
Because you can still make an offer of 980,000 rand. You can still make an offer of 950,000 rand, even though you know that the bank says to you they can give you the whole 100% bond into the property. So that's very important. And these things we develop or learn them over time. Just as we continue to invest in these properties, we then realize that, it's not just a question of our affordability. It's the question of whether I am willing to pay that amount. Am I willing to pay that amount? Yeah.
So there's a question here from Shaga who is saying, what is the right time to buy property? Because at the moment, we know that the repo rate is down. And some people are saying, no, it's the right time to buy. Actually, I think this is the whole debate, that's going on, whether it's the right time to buy or not. Now, some people are raising the concern regarding that point to say the repo rate won't stay down forever. So whatever that you buy must also have the idea that it may not be the same thing that I pay for in a year's time, because yes, it's down now, but I need to ask myself, when things improve, when the economy improves and banks decide that we are going to, or the Reserve Bank decides I'm going to hike up the rates, are you going to still be able to afford the house that you bought when the repo rate was down? What are your thoughts around that idea?
For the past 12 to 24 months, or even 36 months that I've been selling properties in this area where I am in Akureland.
Yeah.
It has been a what we call a buyer's market. What it means is that we have a lot of properties around, such that it's difficult for most sellers to actually sell, or it's difficult for most sellers to get 100% of what they're asking for. That's the buyer's market.
Yeah.
Now the interest rates have gone down, by 2.5 more in the past, 4 months or so, which also gives us more opportunities, to get lower interest rates. So the environment for people to actually buy has become even much better, because the interest rates are now, down, and it was the buyer's market. So it's like it's a more maturing market for buyers to actually buy.
Yeah.
So if people were to buy now, my take is most of them will actually get good deals.
Okay.
But the question that you asked before, which I think you also answered, was will the person be able to afford, this same, bond, or this bond, if the interest rates were to go up again to where they were in the beginning.
Yeah.
So if the people are going to be able to afford, then that's great, So it means it doesn't matter whether it was. Actually, it means the fact that they've gone down is to that person's advantage, because when they go back to that original place where they were before, the person would have benefited, at least for various number of months before, they went up to where they are. So a question of affordability is very important.
Yes.
And I also want to say, this COVID situation is a very bad situation for many people, and many families in particular, because there will be a lot of people that are still going to lose houses, unfortunately.
Sadly.
So it means we are going to have a lot of houses in the market still, making it the buyer's market still, which means a lot of properties are in the market, and then buyers can actually decide which unit they want to buy and which one not to buy, and so on and so on. And they can therefore negotiate for, better, purchasing price, and so on and so on. So I'm saying people must just get ready and prepare for themselves. Let them understand the areas where they want to be buying the properties in the coming few months, and then they can decide, to buy them if they are in a position to actually afford them, and then they can invest and keep going forward.
I think what really comes up is the issue of being really prudent about the whole thing, of even how you spend your money, because the whole thing is about money. That's one thing I'm realizing with property. It's a money issue. Like now we are dealing with the fact that, when it comes to electricity in homes, there are now issues of levies coming in for people that have prepaid electricity, which is the weird things that are going on. And sometimes if you are not aware, and if you don't think long term about your investments and about the direction that you want to take in terms of the property that you acquire, where you acquire it, it's quite interesting. So we have a question, I think, from Benny, and he says, can you negotiate for fixed interest for the duration of the bond? And what is the good rate to go with so you are not losing out when rate goes down more than it goes up? I think that one is for you, not me.
It's a very important question that Benny is it's putting.
Yeah.
The truth is, of course, at the point when you are given the bond, you are also given an option whether you want to fix your rates, or whether you want to let them depend on the prime to change as the Reserve Bank change. So at that point, that's one point where you can actually do that. But what I also have learned, and I'm not an expert in this area because I'm not a bond originator. Okay. There are people called bond originators who are specifically dealing with this. But I've also learned that you can still negotiate these things later on. There's always a period at which you can renegotiate, your whether it remains joined to prime, or whether it remains fixed going forward. So it will be good to get an opinion of a bond originator so that we are very sure and very clear of what we can basically do going forward. But we always have that option. At the point of you getting a bond grant, you have an option to say, I want to fix the rate, or to say, I want my rate to be linked to prime.
Sure. I like that. So what that basically says to us is that it's important to realize that you have a right to have a relationship with the bank that is financing your purchase. Because I'm realizing it's exactly what you are saying, because at different times we have different needs. Now, it's better if you are working with a bank. I'm not sure with the other the other guys that are different finance homes for these different loans, how relational they can be. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. But I think it's important then to therefore realize that you can actually go, and especially if you know that you've got a good financial culture and you really are prudent. And I think you have a leg to stand on when you have been prudent. And now I want to ask you this question. The issue of trying to finish your purchase earlier than what is on the contract, on your contract with your various institutions. Do you think that's a cool idea? And how can we finish? So I'm asking you two questions. How can we also finish paying our bond earlier? And is there value in that? And how can we do it? Is the question.
Yeah. If we are talking about your house,
yeah.
Ideally, I say, finish it as quickly as you can. I usually say, and this is just my personal opinion, I usually say a house is not an asset, as people say, because it does not necessarily give you money on a monthly basis. It's a liability, but a necessary liability. In other words, all of us need shelter. It's necessary that we must have shelter. So if we have enough money to actually buy houses, for cash and so on, we should be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the same thing applies. Each time you pay your house or you pay your investment property quicker than expected, you are saving on the number of interest that you are going to pay, in the years to come. So that's important for people to understand. You are paying for, you are able to cut off or to save on the interest that you are going to do what? To pay, going forward. But if we were to be going technical about investment properties, right?
Yeah.
There are lots of benefits that are attached to you still paying a bond.
Okay.
For a given period of time.
Okay.
So when you are talking about an investment property, it gets a little bit tricky, and that's where I say it goes, technical. People that are able to make money are those that are able to work around their bonds figures to make sure that they still benefit from the tax advantages that are coming from the taxman while making money on their investment. Now, if your investment is completely paid up, and let's say per month you are in one property you are getting 6,000, if you multiply it by 12, you are going to get 72,000. That 72,000 rent theoretically is going to be considered a profit, because you are not paying for anything if you are the one who's basically working on the property. Yeah, saving your rates and taxes or levies if they apply, and then to the taxman you need to pay the tax on the basis of the profit you have made. So ultimately it means your profit will look like it's always higher on a yearly basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you were still paying a bond and so on and so on, you soon realize that your profit will be at a particular level. while you still can access the equity from the property and purchase other properties going forward.
Okay.
Now I know some of the people may not necessarily grasp what I've just said right now because it sounds very technical. You know what I mean?
No, I think I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's important for us to understand that part. If you are owning property for yourself or for your own house, it's always good to settle it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
But if you are owning a property for investment purposes, you need to be able to study the numbers at every given point to understand what they are saying to you. What are the numbers saying to you? And if their numbers are saying to you, you know what, you have made enough equity into this property, and you still have an open bond that is of this much, and you have access to the equity to purchase another property, you may as well find it very necessary for you to take the equity and purchase another property and keep going, you know, without necessarily settling a particular bond. So those are some of the issues that we need to understand. But it's about learning, understanding what you're doing, and keeping on going like that. And it's always important for people to consult for their tax practitioners or people that they can, you know, refer to, so that they help them understand these things. Or even their accountants, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about investing. It's always go to an accountant and get a sense of what they are saying. Because all these people are able to give you information that you generally do not have, or generally wouldn't interpret it in a way that is more beneficial to building your own property portfolio going forward.
Yeah. No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Dumela, you've really been very, very helpful. I think you've also spoken about, okay, fine, the fact that the rate cut provides a perfect opportunity for investment and actually going out and buying property. It has, and I think it's very important for us to realize that the rate cuts are actually crucial to helping people build a portfolio of some sort. The key is to think long term. The key is to realize that what is today may not be the same in a year's time, because you actually don't want to come to a point in your life where your house gets foreclosed and it gets repossessed because you just can't afford it. You know, you've hit a wall because it was the buyer's market, things were flowing, but you were just on the brink. You just qualified. You know, you just qualified when things went down. And so that can lead to a problem, because then you won't have leg room to move, unless if you are thinking, okay, fine, I've got quarters at the back, maybe I can use them for rental, and you know, think creatively around the issue. But the main thing is that don't find yourself in a fix because you didn't think long term. The main thing is just thinking long term. So I think today we've really pushed very hard. I'm going to ask you, you know, there's a debate at the moment going on, and I saw it on Twitter, about the issue between renting and buying. What is better between renting and buying?
That debate is going to go on forever. So my approach is this, and every personal situation is very different.
Yeah.
Every personal situation is very different.
Okay.
So, or every person's situation is very different. For me, I would say to you, why do you want to rent when you can afford to buy it? You know what I mean? Why would you want to rent when you can afford to buy it? Yeah. But somebody can say to you, I want to rent, I know I can afford it, but currently I wouldn't want to actually buy a property in this area, or at a place where I'm working, or in this province where I'm located, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
So personal situations dictate what people decide at every given point.
Yeah.
So that's the very first important part. When I bought my first property, for me, it was not for staying there.
Okay.
It was for rental purposes.
Okay.
My first property was not for staying there, it was for rental purposes.
Yeah.
So you can understand that it meant that I would still rent wherever I am, while I'm having a property that is, generating income for me going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my work at that point, or my mobility at that point, was too much. I couldn't tell you that in the next 2 years or in the next 3 years, I would still be in that given province, and so on and so on. So different situations for different persons. But have I realized any advantage in owning a house rather than renting it? Yes, of course. What are the advantages of buying a property instead of renting? Number one, whenever you are fed up with that property, you can always sell it.
Okay.
And most of the time, when you sell it, you are more likely to make capital gains.
Yeah.
If you are renting a property and you stay there for the whole 5 years, the moment you have to move out of the property, you move out with zero, with only the furniture that you came in, if it's still existent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Now, when you look at these two comparisons, you soon realize that it may as well be a very good thing for you to do what? To buy. Another good advantage is this, about buying a property at a particular time.
Yeah.
Let's say I buy a property now in 2020, and the bank expects me to pay 5,000 rent on a monthly basis. In 2030, the bank would still be expecting me to pay 5,000 rent. And at that point, the likelihood is that my property may be worth more than the money that I actually bought it for at the beginning. So ultimately, I already have an advantage over those who want to start getting into the market in 2030. Because in 2030, the likelihood is that that property which I'm currently paying 5,000 rent, maybe they will be paying 8,000 rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it means for them, they've been renting for the whole 10 years. But for me, I've been paying 5,000 rand as a constant figure, over the years, which to me, it's very advantageous. But having said all these things and the advantages that are related to that, we just need to understand and appreciate the fact that every person's situation remains their own situation. And therefore, we should be respecting their position as long as they understand both the advantages and the disadvantages. That's fine.
I think the key is to know, like taking the time to actually go through your bank statement, to go through your statement to check, because you get shocked to realize how much interest you are paying for property and for rates and for this. And if you are, you can carry on doing life and only realize that, man, these guys have been eating my money,
and for us who are investors, for us who are investing in these properties, it gives us joy to have people renting. It's always a blessing, man. To understand that I own the property and I'm not paying any cent into the property, but I'm collecting money on a monthly basis. Man, it's a blessing. At the end of the year, I look and calculate how much I've collected from you and how much, the tax man is going to give me as a tax break. It's a blessing, man. What more blessing can I ask from the Lord? I'm offering shelter for people, and people are giving me money on a monthly basis. That's beautiful. As an investor, that's how you want to do it, and keep on doing. And if you can do it with one property, then you can do it with a second property. You can do it with a third property, with a fourth property, and keep on building your portfolio going forward. So for me, I mean, really, I'll buy these properties and help people that need shelter to come and rent them out. It's okay. That's good.
So we've got Mukina here who is asking, you made a statement about property you buy to stay in, not being an asset. Can you elaborate more on this, given that in the right market and location, the underlying value of the property appreciates over time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for those who, there are people that think properties always, and I'm using the word always deliberately, consciously.
Yeah.
People that think that properties always appreciate in value.
Okay.
And that's not correct.
Okay.
Sometimes properties do depreciate.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's possible that you buy a property at a given price. Maybe it has been overpriced. At the time when you are selling it, you soon realize that you cannot get the asking price that you are asking, because the market has actually gone down, and therefore it's less. So the assumption that in the future the property will be so high is not always correct, and therefore you can lose money in the process. That's one thing that I'm dealing with this question on.
Okay.
The second one, it's also about the use of words or definition of words.
Okay.
If, to me, an asset is anything that puts money into my own pocket.
Okay.
And this is the definition I've adopted from Robert Kiyosaki, which is the man that I'm following when coming to finance and related stuff, because he's a real estate investor. Anything that puts money in my pocket is what? It's an asset.
Okay.
And anything that takes money out of my pocket, it's what? It's a liability. Anything. Okay. If I buy a car and I'm using it and it's bringing money into my pocket, it's an asset.
Okay.
But if I buy that car and it takes away money on a monthly basis, then it's a liability. Now let's look at this house issue that this guy is raising. When looking at a house, practically speaking, a house where I'm staying in, as in the place where we are now talking from, this place where we are now talking from, on a monthly basis, I'm paying the bond, I'm paying the levies, I'm paying, the water and the electricity. So it's taking away money from my pocket on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But the various rental properties that I already have, that people are staying in and they are paying rent and giving it back to me, those things are to me assets, because they are bringing money into my own. So the place where I'm staying right now is the bank's asset, because I am giving money to the bank. So it brings money to the bank. It's the asset of the bank. But the one where I am the one collecting the rent, it's my asset because it's bringing money to me. So it's a question of understanding
definitions,
what an asset is and how you interpret it. And when coming to definition of words, for me, when it comes to properties, investments, it's always good to listen to those who are making it.
Yeah.
The rich, or those who are successfully developing and generating more property portfolios going forward. The definition of words, they make the difference in terms of how you approach these things going forward.
I hear you. He's got another question which I think is interesting, and that will be our last question, everybody. What are your views about setting up a proper property structures that are largely future-proof? Oh, it just moved now. Yeah, by using trusts as legal entities instead of in your own name.
Yeah. In our last broadcast where you were speaking to me, I spoke about the question of running a business separate from your name.
Okay.
That's important, to actually do. This question borders around the same.
It does, yeah.
If you are doing property investing, you will understand that it's always important to separate your business. This is a business, right? Your business from yourself. Yeah. It's important to separate the business from yourself. In the beginning, it's very tricky. What makes it tricky is that when you go to the bank and ask for a bond, for example, in the beginning, they assess you and check whether your affordability is correct, is fine, whether your credit record is fine, and so on. The more you develop, buy more properties, there comes to a point where you realize that the bank realizes that by looking at you, it will not help. They need to look at the asset itself and check whether the asset will be able to pay for its own liabilities and so on and so on. Now, when you are running your business of property investing, then the bank will then look at the business and make a decision whether the business will be able to run its own affairs, to pay them back, and so on going forward. So I'm basically saying to this guy, it's good to use a legal structure, and don't be shy to go to a particular accountant maybe and actually speak to them about it. Whether you know it will be good for you to go at it using a private company as in PTY Ltd, or to use trust, or to use PTY Ltd, wherein the shareholding is with the trust, and so on and so on. So those are some of the things that you may want to discuss with your accountant about it, or a legal expert around it, so that you structure your portfolio in such a way that it will be beneficial to you as the person who runs or owns this business, going forward, and limit or reduce exposure to your personal assets because of the potential failures that the business may actually have in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, you know what? I feel like now I'm a property guru. Thank you.
And I'm still small. I'm still getting there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohlala, and everybody that's been contributing. I think the best will be for us to actually go through the comments, because the comments seem to be very, very juicy. I just decided I'm interested in this. Usually what I do is stuff on mental health, but I just thought, you know what, Mr. Mohlala will be a good place to come to, just to talk about issues of interest to me. So to everybody, this is going to be a podcast on my life coaching podcast. Please find Mojale Farmer Local Life Coaching on Apple Podcast. It will also be available on Podbean as a podcast as soon as possible. But this is just amazing stuff. And I mean, I learned so much, and I'm going to go through this video again and again. And hopefully as the years go by, God giving us grace, let us try and get into these things, because this is money that can generate itself. And you don't have to be there to constantly be monitoring. There's a lot that you can actually get done and still have a good portfolio. So God giving us the money, we don't have to have the money now. We need to have the knowledge, so that when the money comes, we can actually do very, very well. So there are people who are saying, Mr. Mohlala, thank you for the discussion, and it is good that these discussions are taking place. Thank you so much, Tumelo. You were such a stellar person. We are going to read the comments. Please, everybody that's watching, please share this so that more and more people can come. And hopefully when I ask Mr. Mohlala to come back again, he will come, because he has seen how many people have watched this thing. But you are such a blessing, Mr. Mohlala. Thank you so much. We have learned so much. I need you to give us parting shots. Talk to us more about, I know you do workshops, and what do we need to know about you, and how you can serve people out there?
My parting shots. I do some of the workshops for property investing, so that people can actually just have a sense of what it means or what it takes to invest in property and so on. And I must also stress the fact that I'm happy that I can provide certain information, even if the information is small, as long as it will start a process of people wanting to search more and learn more about properties. That's very important. So when the next a session for property investing come in, I will put a poster and will make invitations, and those who want to join, it will be great for them to actually be to join it. Just one last important thing before I say bye-bye. Whenever people buy properties, they must read the offer to purchase. It's important. Sure. That document called offer to purchase, that contract, is very important. And they must remove emotions. Remove emotions. Read that document. If you don't understand it, there's nothing wrong with you saying to your agent, let me take it home, and then I can come back to your office and we can go through it and re-sign it again. And maybe you can consult somebody who can clarify that. That's very important, because your offer to purchase, whenever it gets signed by the seller, it's no longer offer to purchase. It's a binding contract. So that's very important for you to understand that. You can't come back 4 days or 10 days or 20 days later and say, now I want to pull out, when it's already in the hands of the lawyers and they're busy with the process.
You are liable for costs.
you'll be sued for damages and all those things. So it's very important for people to understand and read their OTP, or at least find legal opinion around their OTP. That's very important. You can always find me on Facebook, it's Peter Mohlala. On Twitter, it's Peter Mohlala. But on Twitter, it's PETA Mohlala.
Okay.
So you can always find me there. And Instagram, the same thing, Peter Mohlala. And we can always talk. My numbers, 073-691-6691. Let's meet all the time. Let's talk, let's discuss, and let's build our own property portfolios and help people, to have enough accommodation, at least during our time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to share.